All right, well, welcome everybody who has joined us so far to the United Leukodystrophy Foundation's December webinar series with Carrie Taylor as our presenter tonight. She is with the Cornerstone of Hope in Lima, Ohio, and she will be presenting tonight on hope and resilience through the holidays. Before I hand the reins over to Carrie, I do want to just say thank you to Carrie so much for being with us tonight and presenting, but I want to give a little bit of a plug for our upcoming webinar series. We had to reschedule the November webinar series to December 16th. Alex and Liam Chaplot, who are siblings of a brother that has MLC, they will be presenting on siblings of leukodystrophy. And so their presentation is going to focus on their experiences as an older and a younger sibling of a person that is affected by leukodystrophy, very much talking about their own personal experience, but also trying to enlighten parents, grandparents, friends, and family on, obviously the affected person is very much affected by leukodystrophy, but the family as a whole is also affected by leukodystrophy. And so their presentation is going to focus on the effects that siblings feel and how they experience their life and how their relationship with their brother is different than a typical family that isn't affected by leukodystrophy. So you might have caught the session back when we hosted it in June, but it was such a wonderful presentation. We wanted to open it up to a slightly wider audience. And so we will be presenting that on December 12th at 7 p.m. Central. We will begin promoting that webinar tomorrow through our social media. So please register, please join us on the 16th. And then as well, by the end of the year, we will be promoting our 2022 webinar schedule as well. So keep an eye out for that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Carrie Taylor. Take it away. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Keely. It's an honor to be with you all. I know that she sent out the attachments. And so if you have something that kind of looks like this, that's your plan for what we're going to talk about tonight. And you've got a wheel that looks like that. And I just want to tell you, for those of you who are like, you're like note takers, don't worry if you're like, is this where I write this down? When am I supposed to write this down? You don't have to worry about that. I will tell you, the screen will actually say it's your turn. Now it's your turn to process what I've just talked about and take a moment to write that down. So please don't stress about that. Our point is not to make you stress tonight, but hopefully to give you a lot of tools to be able to manage this really, really well. So as we dive in, just kind of have that handy. And if you didn't get to print that or write it out, not a problem. If you grab just a blank sheet of paper, you can use that just as easily and jot things down as we go. So here we go. Let's go ahead and dive in. So as we approach these holidays, it doesn't mean that like stress is a whole new thing, like, oh, we haven't felt this all year and all of a sudden we do at the holidays. I know that we have all felt this, but I want to kind of help you understand some of the terms that we're using and what that's about. We're going to start with the psychoeducation of this, and then we're going to get into some real practical. So I don't want you to think we're going to hang with just teaching you about it. We are going to get to so many practical things, but I want to talk about what stress actually is. So stress is a condition or feeling experience when somebody perceives that the demands exceed the personal and social resources the individual is able to mobilize. So it's when you feel like I don't have what it takes to get this accomplished. That is when stress wells up in us. And when we've all felt like that, where I don't have what it takes to accomplish something. Now, we've all felt that, but what we're experiencing, what we're seeing as a trend in our culture, especially walking through a pandemic, and just really part of our culture, we're seeing that it's actually turning into more chronic stress. So chronic stress is a response when to a response to emotional pressure suffered for a prolonged period of time where we feel like we have little or no control. And when I have done these talks and I ask my audiences, how many of you recently have felt like you have little or no control over something? every single hand goes up, because we've kind of been in this experience where we don't have a say over how this pandemic is going and how long it's going to take in the political climate. And for some of you as caregivers, you don't have control over the process of care that you have to do, and what the needs are and those kind of things. And so when we experience stress after stress after stress after stress, it over a prolonged time, it turns into what's called chronic stress. And that's when it begins to impact us mentally and emotionally, relationally, spiritually. All those factors get involved. So that can sound really daunting, but I want to show you a couple depictions of this to maybe help us understand it a little bit better as we dive into this. But before I do that, I want to show you some of the top holiday stressors. All right. So there's one on this that kind of makes me laugh, and maybe you'll see that too. But there's some truth to it. So let's dive into what are typically the holiday stressors that kind of like, even though those other stressors may be there, these might be adding an additional. So let's take a look at these. These are the ones that are found to be the top holiday ones. So the first one is crowds and long lines, right? Those are never fun. So you have an option to do Amazon where you can avoid all of that, but those create stress. Gaining weight. Sometimes this is an added stressor to people where they're just nervous about, oh dear, how's this going to go for me? Debt and finances, because there's extra expenses during this holiday time. And for many people, this has been a stressful year financially. Giving and receiving gifts. Now that can sound delightful to some of you, and some of you that's really daunting. What do I get them? What is my emotional response when I get a gift? If I get a gift from them, then do I have to go buy them one? Like, does it have to be reciprocal? And that can cause some stress. Traveling, figuring out all those dynamics. What do I have to do? How long is this going to take? How do we get everything there that we need? Being with family, as much as we love our sweet families, sometimes there are those people, there are those present that we know that's going to create some maybe some tension or some stress, and we're going to address that later. Seasonal music. Now, how does that seem stressful? At the Taylor house, we like to listen to music, Christmas music, starting on Labor Day. We believe we love Christmas music. We listen to it a super long time. But for some people, it triggers memories, right? Or it triggers the stress ball of what this season unfortunately has come to represent for some of them. Holiday parties can be stressful, where sometimes it's this idea of, goodness, how many do we go to? We've said yes to all these. How do we get there? How do we manage this? Do I have to take something? What do I do if they do one? Do I have to do one? Weather is one. I just spoke to a group and they said that's one of their top stressors. It's just weather. It's unpredictable right now. What's it going to be? Some of you maybe deal with some seasonal affective disorder, where when the weather changes and it's colder and it's darker outside, and the day seems shorter and it gets darker earlier, sometimes that can impact us. Decorating and tear down, right? Setting it all up and then having to take it all down. For some people, that causes a lot of stress. New Year's resolutions so some people get all stressed about making a New Year's resolution. And then the last one is really kind of funny to me, but having to be nice. This is what people put on their top stressors during the holiday season, was actually, I have to be nice. Oh dear, and that just seems to cause some stress. So these may or may not be yours, but I just thought I'd show you. These are some of the top ones that people are saying this is what weighs on us on top of normal life during the holiday season. So now that we've kind of brushed through that, I'm going to show you a couple different analogies that really kind of, or I'm going to show you one, that really kind of depicts what's happening when we don't manage stress in a healthy way. So here we go. This is, at Cornerstone, we call this our cliff analogy, and it's a depiction of what happens when we don't manage stressors well. So you see that little stick figure there, and that is you. That's you, and you're calm and confident. Maybe it's in the morning, you wake up, nothing bad's happened, you're good to go. And then your day starts. And so you start going up this cliff of stressors. So maybe your day goes something like this. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't find my keys. I can't even leave the house. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now they're changing what protocols at work. I have to do this now. Did you even see what that person put on Facebook? I can't even believe it. I have to do what? Who's sick now? We have to readjust everything. Oh dear. I don't even know. Do you realize we're running out of time? That Amazon gift won't even get here in time. What am I going to do? And we just ramp up this cliff. And if we don't do anything to manage those stressors, we get to the top of this cliff and we feel completely overwhelmed. And when I ask for a raise of hands of people who have ever felt overwhelmed, every hand goes up, because we are not robots, we are human. And we have all been there. And if when we feel overwhelmed, if we still do nothing to manage our stress, what happens is we often jump off this cliff, into a negative downward spiral that goes something like this. This is the worst. It's never going to get better. I'm never going to get this. I am so incompetent. I can't do anything right. I'm a big failure. I should just quit. And if any of you have ever negative downward spiraled, it's because you're human. You're not a robot. We've all done that. But what if we could begin to recognize that, you know what, I'm about halfway up my cliff. And what if I could do something to de-escalate my stress so that the next stressor only hits me here instead of way up here, so that I don't have to get to this place of being completely overwhelmed. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to talk about your brain. So we're going to go a little neuroscience-y on you real quick. In our office, we love to talk about the brain. We love that because if you don't understand how your brain can work for you, you will often just let it have its way and it can work against you. And so I really want to teach you what this is, and we're going to refer back to this often as I talk tonight. So here's a picture of your brain. And you'll see this little, it looks like a little oval. That's called your amygdala. And your amygdala is located between your earlobes here. And there's one on each side, and they're about the size of an almond, a peanut M&M, or a grape, something that size. And there's one on each side, and that is the part of your brain that is always sensing for threats. Is there a threat out there? Did that person look at me funny? Am I going to be able to accomplish this? Is this sickness going to take more than I have to give? Is this, is this car coming at me too fast? So what's happening? It's sensing for threats, and it triggers your fight or flight response. So it's the thing that when it gets triggered, your body reacts, where your heart rate gets intensified, you get tense, you physically get tense, your adrenaline gets going because it's ready to fight or flee the situation. So that's this part of our brain that gets triggered when stressors well up. And then we have this part in our brain between your temples. That's called your hippocampus. Now, that part of your brain is responsible for a lot of things like memories and things like that. But one of the parts of that part of the brain is responsible for feeling. It's where your brain registers what your emotions feel, what they're feeling like. And so what happens is we get triggered by stressors or by things happening around us that feel like threats, and then we feel something. Now, this is where, unfortunately, in our culture, we humans stop using our brains. We get triggered, we feel deeply, and we just either we react. We react, we explode like a volcano, we shut down, we go to an unhealthy coping strategy. That tends to be what we do instead of engaging our prefrontal cortex, which is this part of the brain that comes over top. And its job, the job of the prefrontal cortex, is to help you have logic and reasoning, to make meaning, to have to make a good decision. That part of the brain has language. And so it helps you say, what do I need to do to move forward? And so if I can show you with my hand, my thumb, if that's your amygdala, and it gets fired, the job of the prefrontal cortex, that's my hand here coming over, is to get that under control, to get it to calm down, to get it to think reasonably, to get it to have a wise decision about what's going on. And it has language. Now, the reason I keep saying that about language is really important, because what we're doing in the first part of this time together tonight is called self-awareness. And I'm going to give you some moments to do this coming up shortly. So what we have to do is actually begin to use language, because this part of the brain has language. Our emotion center and our amygdala do not have language. So immediately to begin to get our prefrontal cortex back online so that it does the job we need it to do, to calm things down and to help us make good decisions, we have to engage language. And so that's a crucial part of this. So I wanted to explain that part of the brain because we've got to begin to get this engaged. So my first question for you on your plan, and the reason we're calling this a plan is because I hope that you will be able to refer back to it. Sometimes when we have these stressful moments that hit us hard, especially through the holidays when things are fast paced, we don't remember what we're supposed to do to manage it. And if you have this plan written out, it will help you remember, oh yes, I remember what I need to do. So that's why we're going to write things down. So here's your first question. What are your top 3 stressors or worries that you think about with the coming up holidays? Okay, so top 3 stressors about that you're thinking about with the coming up holidays. So I'm going to give you a moment. I just want you to write those down. All right. And if you're still writing, that's okay. Don't ever let me interrupt that. I can't even see most of you anyway, so you're fine. So hopefully you were able to identify what are my top 3, the ones that just seem to come up during the holiday time. So the next thing we're going to go to is physically, what do you experience when stress hits? Okay, so here are some common physical and behavioral symptoms of stress. So we'll read through these as I read through these and explain it, and you're like, oh, that's me. That's how I experience stress. Go ahead and jot it down on your sheet. I'm asking you just identify 3. If you have more, that's fine. But I want you to pay attention to what are 3 ways your body experiences stress. Okay. So the first one on this list is muscle tension, stomach aches, chest pain, headaches, jaw tightness. We all hold stress in certain parts of our body, right? So where is it that you recognize that's where it usually settles in my body? Another symptom is restlessness, where you just feel like you can't relax. You're just kind of keyed up all the time. Some people, when stress hits, they have difficulty concentrating. I have a lot of clients tell me, my brain is foggy. Like I just can't think through what I'm supposed to do. The next one is feeling easily fatigued or having a lack of energy. So for these people, this is when stress wells up and you just get exhausted. Like it just wears you out. Another one is sleep disturbance, where you can't fall asleep, or you wake up during the night, or you can't get up in the morning because you can't sleep at night. So it really messes up your sleep. Here's a few more. Sometimes when stress wells up, we feel detached or we're detaching from others. So this is where we just don't even have the energy to connect with people. For some people, their thoughts go super rapid. And a lot of times people explain to me this happens at night. So when they lay down to sleep, just thought, goes kind of rapid. So that happens when we're stressed. Changes in appetite. For some people, they forget to eat when they're stressed. Like they are not hungry at all. For some people, they're super hungry when they're stressed and they want more food. And so changes in your appetite happen. Tearfulness. Some people, stress just comes out your eyeballs. It just, there it comes. And you just experience it that way. For some of us, when stress wells up, we shut down or we withdraw from people. This is kind of when your amygdala goes into flee. You just kind of want to shut down or withdraw. And then for some of us, become irritable or aggressive. A lot of times people mistaken this for someone having anger issues, but it could be that you're having high stress. And it's not anger, it's stress underneath that needs to be dealt with and managed in a more healthy way. So maybe you were able to identify some of those. So what are 3 ways your body experiences stress during the holidays? So I'll give you just a moment. Hopefully you were able to maybe recognize those as I talked, but give you just a moment here. All right, so moving on. So we've talked about just our awareness. These are the things that cause me stress. Here's how I experience it physically. Now we're going to go a step further. We're going to go emotional, okay? So let me tell you something before we slip into this. So there is in the part of our brain, our hippocampus, that feels all these things, there is no language in that part of our brain. And so what I'm finding is that people are using the term stressed to identify everything. So how are you? I'm stressed. And we kind of are like, oh, okay. Kind of like, yeah, well, join the club. You know, stressed is becoming the new good. You know how you used to ask people like, how are you doing? Everybody's like, oh, I'm good. I'm fine. Now stressed is normal. And this is really sad because we're equating stress with a myriad of things. Like you could have horrific things happening in your life and say, I'm very stressed. You could also have misplaced your keys and say, I'm stressed. And so those are two very different types of stressors. But when we use one word to always describe everything, then our brain it links to the experience that is the worst. So as we are saying, I'm stressed, meaning it's the worst case scenario, then your brain's reacting as that. And so we need to really be cautious that when we're saying or we're experiencing stress, what exactly are we feeling underneath that? And when we begin to identify those things, we get our prefrontal cortex back online. And when it recognizes emotions and says, okay, no, you know what I'm feeling is I'm feeling lonely right now. Then your prefrontal cortex says, okay, that I register that. What can we do about it? And it begins to help you solve that problem. And so I want you to, if you were able to get the downloads, you've gotten this emotion wheel. And so here's what I want you to do with this. And let me tell you this too, there's a statistic that one of our staff found that 70% of adults do not know how to identify what they're feeling. This is a real problem because that means we're not getting our prefrontal cortexes back online by identifying, using language. So using this emotion wheel, I want you to take a moment and look at it, and you'll see the center has kind of like your basic emotions, and then it branches out into some more specific ones. And we are not just simple creatures, right? We are created with complexity. And so I want you to really take a moment and think, what are my top 3 emotions behind my stress during the holidays? What is it I'm really feeling? And I'm going to give you a moment to do this. Okay. So just take that and jot those down. And if you're really going to like link that to your physical, you might say, when I feel lonely, where in my body do I feel that? Do I feel it in my stomach? Do I feel it in my shoulders? Does I feel it in my chest? Do I have a headache? Does my jaw get tight? You know, what is it? So go ahead and see if you can identify 3 emotions that are behind your stress at the holidays and maybe where in your body you feel it. So I'll give you a moment. All right. And if you're still writing, I wish I could give more time, but I want to be honor the hour that we have together and keep moving. So thank you for taking that time to think about how you experience this and to jot these things down, because again, without self-awareness, when we're not aware of something, we can't do anything about it. So that's a crucial step. So now we're going to kick into some practical things. And so I'm going to show you a couple things and talk about some things. I want you to just be thinking in your life, how do I do this? How do I experience this? How can I look at the holidays through a different lens, perhaps? So the first thing I want to talk about is we're going to hit on expectations versus reality. So during the holidays, I can't tell you how many times I prep clients for this when they are concerned about a family dynamic or how this is going to go or what's coming up and what they might encounter. And so we talk about when our expectations are here, but reality is here, all that space in between is left for disappointment. right? Because when we expect someone's behavior or we expect something to be perfectly played out, we have this huge expectation here, but reality is here. We're gonna face disappointment. So the better thing to do whenever you're prepping for, whether it's a big plan you have, or it is a family dynamic situation or something you're going to encounter during the holidays, is to realize that expectations and reality, if we can get those on the same playing field, then we don't have as much disappointment. And sometimes we even are pleasantly surprised, right? So it's really important to just take a moment before you engage or you move into those situations that could be high stressors to say, okay, what is most likely? What is the reality? And let me make sure I'm expecting reality here, not way up here on my expectation, right? And I put there on the screen, you see it says realistic resilience. Now, I'm going to tell you real honestly, this is something I'm learning to pray for in my life. I was recently in a car accident and I have right now 2 broken feet, and it is not fun and it is very difficult. And so my expectations of me are up here, but my reality right now is here. And I want to be resilient. I'm a very positive, optimistic thinker. I want to be like, I can do this. I can overcome this. And I want to be resilient. But when I am not realistic in my resilience, then I fall hard. And so I'm learning right now, big time, to say, okay, Carrie, reality is here. Let's get your expectation of what you can do here so that you can be resilient to meet that. And you can feel good about that and be realistic about it instead of up here, and boom, disappointment. So maybe some of you are like, well, that's me. I do expectations way here, reality tends to be here, and I fall hard. That can be really difficult during the holidays. So please make sure you have that realistic resilience. So that is one thing. Another thing I find that people deal with a lot is remembering what they can and can't control. So I don't know if for you, you like to be in control. We all like to have some control, absolutely. And that's not a bad thing. We actually do have control over a lot of things, but we also don't have control over some things that we own as ours to control. So to think about it this way, the green circle in the center, that's what you can control. And the blue is what you can't. So what you can control are your words, your actions, your behavior, your thoughts, and your attitude. That is in your control. What you cannot control are other people's words, actions, behaviors, thoughts, and attitudes. That is not your job to control everyone else. And I cannot tell you how relieving that is for some people in our office when they're like, but what if they think this? And what if they do this? And what if that person perceives us this way and this? And then we say, whoa, not your job. Not your job. You have permission to let go of what is not yours to control and to take ownership of what you can. And that gives you a greater sense of control while eliminating the stressors of what you can't. And that is a huge component to think about, especially as we go into some of these holiday dynamics that can be tricky. Here's another one. So, whoops, gotta go back. The computer's just not wanting to cooperate there. All right, so I'll just tell you about it if it won't go there. Let me see. Oh, there it is. I got it. Okay. So this one is called Disengage with Stress Olympics. Now, let me tell you what Stress Olympics are. This was a term that has been coined because we live in a culture that we believe the more stressed we are, the more value we have. And so we kind of engage in this Olympic race with other people that if I'm the most stressed, that means I have the most value. That means I'm the winner. I'm the most stressed. I get the gold medal. How sad is this? This is not at all how we were created to live. And so you watch this concept of Stress Olympics occur a lot of times through social media. So when you engage in social media can be used for a lot of really good things. And your foundation probably has social media page to engage and get information out. And that is when it's used well. When social media is not used well is when we use it to, and we don't even always realize this, when you're scrolling through Facebook, for instance, your brain goes into comparison mode. So you see what somebody posted and you immediately say, am I equal to them? Am I greater than them? Am I less than them? What do I need to adjust, all right, to be better? And a lot of times what we don't realize is that was one person posted 1 second of their life, right? We don't know what happened 5 minutes later, right? When things fell apart. And so we are a culture that is immersed in comparison all the time, and say, well, they're doing this and their house looks beautiful. Look at that picture. They've got theirs all done. They don't have this to deal with. They don't have the caregiving responsibilities I have. So, but they do, and they're still doing this. And how do I keep up? And how do I make sure everything looks great? And we appear like we have it all together. We are doing this to a detriment to our health and our mental health and our well-being. And so I would really encourage you to watch that this Christmas, because you're going to have people who maybe they have extra time, and so they do extra decorations. Do you know that you don't have to decorate your house to celebrate Christmas? It's not a requirement. So many of the things that we think are requirements at Christmas, no one's requiring. No one's giving us a grade. No one's giving us a paycheck for those things. We just decide we need to do them. And some of it we do because we want to be perceived well. And we need to be really cautious that we disengage with stress Olympics. So here's a couple ways to do that. When someone is giving you their list of, man, I'm so stressed, I've got this, and then we have to go here, and we have to do this, we have to get this appointment, we got to get them taken care of, and then we got to get these holiday cards due, and I got to do this. When someone's doing that, what we tend to do is compete with them. And we say, I know, let me tell you what I got to do. And we go through our whole list. And we end up kind of in this competition with them because we're vying for value. The better thing to do when someone's giving you their list is to say, wow, that sounds like a lot of stress. I wonder what you could do to let something go. People are not expecting that. And when you respond with that, it's actually a compassionate response. You are saying, I will not engage. I'm not going to battle for first place over our stress. And I'm also concerned about your well-being. That is how we disengage with stress Olympics. And so just watch if Facebook or some of your social media that you're looking at is leaving you feeling less than or like you're in competition, disengage. It is not something you have to experience. So that's a huge one. So what I want you to do after we've talked about those few things about expectations and reality, which you can and can't control, and this disengaging with stress Olympics, what are maybe 2 ways that you can prepare to have healthy outlooks and boundaries this holiday season? Just take a moment, just ponder that and jot a couple things down. A lot of times when we get our ideas, our outlooks, and our boundaries in place, in a healthy place, we feel so relieved. It is hugely relieving once we accept those things and live that way. Let me throw out a holiday challenge real quick about social media. What if for the month of December, everything you posted was simply an encouragement to someone else? What if that was one of your gifts to anybody who looks at your post? Was not you trying to promote yourself in the best light, or not trying to give your list of my stressors. What if it was, I just want to encourage people today by sharing this? What if that could be your gift to a lot of people on social media? That could be a really neat holiday challenge. I'm going to give you a lot of holiday challenges as we get into the practical. All right, so moving on here. We're going to talk real quick about thought traps. We call them thought traps in our office because this is what happens underneath the stress, right? This is where we have a thought, and our thoughts dictate our emotions, which then dictate our actions. All right. And so I want to talk about this because I want you to see if you can identify maybe where you're getting stuck that's causing this stress snowball to occur. All right, so I'm going to read you the thought traps and explain those, and then I'll give you time to kind of jot some thoughts down. So these are not all the thought traps there are, but these are some very, very common ones that people experience when they're stressed. So the first one is going perfectionistic. So if you are wired that way, if you may have this belief that if it's not perfect, I'm a failure. And when you feel like something's not perfect, when your expectation's here and reality is here, then you say, well, I failed. I'm totally stressed. The whole thing's ruined, right? So that might be a thought trap you fall into. Some of you may fall into jumping to a conclusion. So this happens in two ways. One, it means you're a mind reader, right? So that's when you walk around and say, oh, I know they think this. I know they think this of me, right? Or I know this is how this is going to happen. I know it's just going to be a wreck. You don't know these things, right? You have no idea. So you're reading people's minds or you're fortune telling, right? So you're kind of saying, I know what they think. I know they think this. They know they think that. Or this is going to be the worst. I know how it's going to end up. It's going to explode on me. It's going to be the worst thing ever. So it may be some of you jump to those conclusions, and we're usually very negative conclusions. Some of us overgeneralize. So that is when we use words like always, never, everything, nothing, right? So like this always happens. Nothing ever works, right? Everything is going to mess up or be a failure, right? And so we use those extreme words, we overgeneralize. And whenever we do that, it's not reality because nothing is always. Nothing is never, and everything and nothing. Those are extreme words, and those result in heightened stress in us. Magnifying or catastrophizing. So this is where we blow things out of proportion, right? So I can't find my keys this morning. The whole day's ruined. It's gonna be the worst thing ever. I can't do anything right. I'm just like the worst ever. You lost your keys, right? This is a common human occurrence, right? It's not this big ginormous. At our house, we ask our boys, is this a 10? Where is this? And really, if you begin to rate this for yourself, you will find your emotions will match your rating. So if you have a moment where you can't find your keys and you say, wait a minute, where's this at on the scale? And you say, you know what? Not finding my keys is probably around a 3. Then your emotions will probably drop to a 3. But if you rate it, this is a 10, you're going to feel the emotions of a 10. So that's a quick trick just to help you kind of navigate that. Another one is mental filtering. So this is one where we only pay attention to negative things and you filter out anything good. I just had this conversation today with one of my boys. They were looking at a situation and completely disregarding anything they had done that was positive. And they were looking and honing in on only the negative occurrences that they were aware of. And when it happened, stress went up. Right? Because that's all they can see. And you got to catch, am I filtering out the good or am I looking at things with a whole picture? And the last one here is called negative labeling. And that's when we do things like say, I'm a loser, I'm useless, I'm a failure, I'm incompetent. We label ourselves with things that aren't even true, but because stress welled up, we're doing that. And that ignites more stress for us. So maybe you've identified with 1 or 2, or maybe even some more of those. And we do those in different situations. So the first thing I want you to do on your sheet, I want you to maybe jot down what are 3 negative things you tell yourself. You typically tell yourself when you're experiencing maybe holiday stress, during the holidays specifically. Which of those 3 do you tend to fall in? What do you say to yourself? I want you to pause and write that down, and then we're going to tell you how to overcome it. So go ahead and jot those down. All right. I know you may be writing, but I'm going to keep moving here. So let's go through these steps. What do we do when our thoughts are so negative and they're igniting our stress? So the first thing we do is we name your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex. That sounds really weird, but the reason we do this is in our office, we want you to have an out of brain experience. So we want you to name your amygdala. You can call that your worry brain. Your freak out brain, that's the part of your brain that is always looking for threats, remember? And your prefrontal cortex, you could call that your smart brain, your logical brain, right? Your steady brain. You might just name it. What is it? And then you ask yourself, okay, I am definitely feeling stressed. What is my worry brain telling me right now? And then you begin to identify what the negative thoughts are that your worry brain is telling you. And then you say, okay, now, I realize those are in those thought traps. That's step 2. I recognize those thought traps. That's where my worry brain is falling into a thought trap right now. Now, step 3 is we challenge that thought and we say, wait a minute. Is that actually true? Is it actually true that I am like the worst hostess ever? Right? Because I don't have all my decorations because we had to go to doctor's appointments and we couldn't get this done. So I'm the worst hostess. Is that actually true? Or step 4, what is more true? Is it more true that I am a very compassionate person? I care for this family member that I have to be a caregiver for. I care for the people coming over and I'm going to bless them with my compassion rather than my decorations. That's true. That is more true. And I can live out of that. So we challenge ourselves in that way. And you say, what is my smart brain telling me? What is my steady brain telling me? It's telling me that I am a compassionate person. I get to give that gift and that's going to be enough this season, right? And so that is this process, and we call it having out of brain experience because you meet and so you talk to your brain, you talk to the parts of it, you talk to your thoughts instead of just letting them come and rule your life. You begin to have a process, and I'll encourage you to go back to that later. And when you have more time to take, what are the negative things that you tell yourself and the thought traps you fall in? And then, well, are these statements actually true? Usually no. What is more true? And really challenge you to work that through so you have a true thought about yourself as you go through the holiday season. So I'm going to move on from here because I want to get to these coping skills because this is going to really give you a lot of those super practical things. So here we go. Now, these healthy coping strategies that I'm going to go over right now, I've got a lot of holiday challenges for you in here, but I want to tell you something. You can look at these and read them and be like, okay, she's just going to tell us these. What I'm going to do different is tell you why they work. What part of your brain is disengaging to actually get your prefrontal cortex back online? How is it calming you down? And because if you don't know how it works, you're way less likely to actually believe in it and use it if you have no idea what it's doing in your brain. So I taught you how to have an out of brain experience, right? To talk to your thoughts. Now I want to give you some coping strategies so that when you feel like you're halfway up this cliff, you know how to de-escalate using these skills so that you don't get to the place where you're completely overwhelmed. All right, so here we go. So the first one is music. Now, most of us love music, right? Here's what's so cool about music. When your stress is welling up, when you have a wave of stress welling up, when you intentionally turn on music, your senses cannot just focus on the stressor. They are now taking in the sounds. And if the music has positive language in it, they are taking in that language. And what part of the brain does language? Prefrontal cortex, right? And so it is engaging your prefrontal cortex as you stop and listen to a song. The beautiful thing about songs is that they usually last about 5 minutes or less. And so in 5 minutes or less, you might be able to say, I'm going to stop everything. I need to de-escalate. I'm going to listen to the words of this song and just spend this moment in this song. And that has the ability to de-escalate. So here's your holiday challenge. I would encourage you during this holiday season to make a playlist of your favorite Christmas songs. they might be really meaningful songs to you. They might also be just really fun songs, or they might elicit a wonderful memory for you. So if you were to have a playlist that you say, okay, I'm feeling stressed, it's time for my playlist, and I need to listen to a song, I need to pay attention to the words, not just background music, but really pay attention. I might also encourage you to send your recommendations to a friend this holiday season. Say, hey, here's my 10 de-stressing holiday playlist songs. What are yours? And begin to share that challenge, but use the music in that way. The next thing on here is laughter. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but during the pandemic, everybody got super serious, so serious to the point that we didn't laugh anymore. And that is incredibly sad. I read a book called Humor Seriously recently, and they talked about all of the health benefits of laughter. And one of the best is that laughter has this way of dissipating tension in a room, right? So when there's this tension from stress welling up, if you were to allow yourself to laugh, a lot of times you do not feel stressed when you're laughing. It de-escalates the situation. So my boys and I, when they were home way at the beginning of the pandemic, when we had to do school at home, I knew we were going to face some stressors. And so we watched these funny animal videos. I don't know if y'all have ever seen these, but they are hilarious. And so when I watched their stress escalate, we would take a moment and say, okay, it's funny animal video time. And so we would turn these on with these animals doing hilarious things. We would be laughing so hard that my one son was like crying. He was laughing so hard. And we watched everything de-escalate, and we could get back to what we needed to because the tension had left the situation. Find something that makes you laugh and engage with that. Connecting with others is another one. We desperately need connection with people to keep us from feeling overly stressed. So what I would encourage you to do is, who are your life-giving people? Life-giving people are the people that when you're around them, or you talk to them, or you spend a moment with them, you feel like they have given to you. They have not taken from you. And that is important for you to know who those people are, and that you find a way, have I connected with them? Can I just call them and say, I just need 5 minutes with you. I just need to text you real quick, and I just need you some encouragement from you. Who are your connection people? Taking media breaks is a huge one. So when we are on social media, or on watching the news, or looking at the newspapers and taking in all of the feed of what's happening around us, what happens is, because it's often negative, it keeps your amygdala triggered big time. So when your amygdala is triggered all the time, you're in a constant state of stress and threat. And so to give yourself breaks from media is huge and really important. So maybe for some of you, your gift to yourself this holiday season is, I'm going to look at media this one time in the day, and then I'm done. I'm going to give myself a break. That is my gift to myself. I'm going to allow my amygdala time to de-escalate. And maybe that can be a huge one for you. Games, puzzles, and reading. Okay, so some of you, maybe you love to do crossword puzzles, or you love to do Sudoku or word searches, or maybe you love to actually put puzzles together, or maybe you love to read. That is just, that's just so life-giving to you. So I would encourage you to either have a book of puzzles, an actual puzzle, or a book that you love to do. And when you engage with these things, you are actually using either language, because reading involves words, or you're using the logic of your brain to solve puzzles. And both of those engage your prefrontal cortex. So when stress wells up, it might be a good idea to say, okay, I'm going to do my Sudoku for about 5 minutes. I need to engage the logical part of my brain. And you, in that doing so, you get your prefrontal cortex back online. Maybe it's doing a puzzle, which actually engages that prefrontal cortex because you're solving a problem. Or with reading, you're taking in words, something enjoyable to read about that you really love. That can really help give you this, I'm just for 5 minutes, or I'm just one chapter. I'm just going to go read a chapter. That gives you the space that you need to calm that amygdala down, get that prefrontal cortex back online. Writing and journaling is another one. So writing, I often tell people, writing is like anti-anxiety medication without bad side effects, right? You cannot write as fast as you think. And so it slows your thinking down to have to put it down on paper. Sometimes in our office, we call it having a brain dump. It's kind of like you dump your brain out on paper. It's swirling, everything's swirling, the stress is everywhere. If you would write it out, your brain will be like, oh, thank heavens. I don't have to remind you of that anymore. I don't have to deal with it. It's out here. That is a great way to manage stress. Gratitude and encouragement. I cannot tell you, they have done so much studies in the last few years on the benefits of gratitude and encouragement. So what happens when we are grateful or we are thankful for something, what happens is really you're thankful for something that is happening. It's right here, right now. It's in the present. It gets you in the present, grounded in this moment, and it flips you into your prefrontal cortex because you're identifying with words what you're grateful for, which then has a positive impact on your emotion, which then has a calming effect on your body. So here's your holiday challenge with this. With the gratitude and encouragement, I would really encourage you to pick someone and write 12 notes to them, or buy really cheap Christmas cards. You can get them at like the dollar store or somewhere, and write them 12 cards of just encouragement for the 12 days of Christmas. And give these to them. Sometimes we need a break from ourselves. And when we have a time to just encourage somebody else, if you can't do 12, if that's daunting to you, then do one. Do one each day to someone to just say, I appreciate you. You mean a lot to me, and here's why. You will find that you feel better. They feel better. And that gratitude in you actually has staying power where it can last a significant amount of time. So I would really encourage you to do that over this holiday. Now, the next three are in bold on your screen because these are the three most commonly used coping skills. Now, I'm going to tell you these, and I'm going to throw a couple holiday challenges in for you. So the first one is 4-7-8 breathing. And people always tell us, oh, counselors always tell us to do deep breathing. But remember, I'm not just going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you why. So 4-7-8 breathing is a slowing your breathing down process where you count your breathing. So you count in for 4 counts, you hold it for 5 to 7, and you exhale for 6 to 8. The important part is you're taking a deep breath, you're letting your lungs expand, and you're exhaling longer than you inhale. Now, here's why this matters. When we are stressed, what does our breathing do? It goes very rapid. And we actually can take control back of our amygdala and our feelings of stress by slowing that breathing down. So when you slow it down and you control it, you are calming that down. You're taking charge of your amygdala and you're telling it to chill out. The other thing that does this breathing, when you breathe, exhale for a long time, it pushes your shoulders down. And the farther your shoulders are from your amygdala, research has told us the calmer you feel. So it has this beautiful effect. When shoulders are up, that's where they are when we're stressed. And this breathing pushes them down, gets them away from your amygdala, and the calmer you feel. So there's one. Now here's your holiday challenge with that. It's getting cold out. So if you go to a window and you take a deep breath in and you exhale long, you should be able to fog up a window good, right? So to get a big window, see how much of that window you can fog up just by taking a deep breath in and exhaling long. It could be a really fun project, right? Just to see what you can do, but you may find that really helps. Okay, muscle relaxation. What do your muscles do when you're stressed? They get tense. Why? Because you're ready to fight or flee a situation. Your amygdala is getting you ready for that. So again, we want to take control back of that amygdala by calming our muscles down, relaxing them. So what I would say in muscle relaxation is you actually tense your muscles for about 5 seconds, really tight. You start from your head, you relax the muscles in your face and your jaw, your shoulders drop, your arms go limp, you breathe out, exhale all the air from your chest and your stomach. Relax your backside, your upper legs, your lower legs, your feet, and take a deep breath until you kind of feel like you're just heavy in the chair you're sitting in. And if you still have some tension, you can do it again. But again, you're telling your amygdala, nope, my muscles are relaxed. You can calm down. We are okay. So that's a huge one. The next one is movement. So some of you, you're like breathing, good, muscle relaxation. I need to move my body, right? So for some of you, you need to move. And you can do that by walking briskly. You can do that by doing push-ups, sit-ups, riding a bike, going for a run, walk, swim, anything. Doing jumping jacks, something like that. And what they're finding with movement is it shifts the blood back to your hippocampus where you feel, but when you're done with movement, it shifts it back to your prefrontal cortex, which is sometimes why we can focus and concentrate and think more clearly after we have moved. And so your holiday challenge is throw on some Christmas music and dance. Get your body moving, have a great time, have a little dance party, and then get back to life, because you will feel hugely de-escalated just by getting your body moving. The next one is mindfulness. Mindfulness is being fully present in this moment. Stress often means I am worried about 10 things outside of this moment, right? So mindfulness brings us back to the present. So here's your holiday challenge with that. It's using your 5 senses to stay really present. I would encourage you, when stress is welling up, go get a hot cup of cocoa and a mini candy cane. And I want you to sit with that cocoa, feel the warmth, smell the chocolate, smell the candy cane, stir and watch the candy cane melt into the hot chocolate. Don't do anything else, but watch this melt in and enjoy the taste of it going down until that hot chocolate is gone. At that point, you can re-engage with what you were doing, and you will feel a sense of, I am calmer because I have been fully present in something I'm doing. There's your holiday challenge. Stretching is another huge one. So we live in this box, right? We text here, we talk on our phone here, we work on our computers here. If you play video games, you do that here. We live in this box. Do you know there's a world up here? There's a world out here, and we don't engage it, but simply stretching your arms up and out has a huge benefit on calming your stressors. Part of the reason is that when we live in this box and we're doing these things, our shoulders often get hunched. And so we have a posture that looks like we're in a protective mode, and your amygdala interprets that as you need to be in a protective mode. We must be in danger. When you stretch and open your shoulders and your chest, your amygdala interprets that as, oh, wait, we're open. We must have a confident posture. We must be good. We must be secure in our setting. We can calm down. So use that stretching. Plan moments of calm. I would really encourage you to maybe set your timer for 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. Whatever you need to do, and say, wherever I am on my cliff, even if I'm only here, I'm going to choose a strategy to calm myself so that I'm calmer for the next stressor. Right? Intentionally plan these moments in. And the last thing here is get outside. Get outside, do something outside. I know it's cold, but spending time outside gets you fully present in the moment, and don't take your cell phone. That's huge. So in the interest of time, I'll let you write down these coping strategies as you think of them, but I'm going to move on because I want to make sure that we get through this timely here. So hopefully you caught on to some, and I'm going to teach you something real quick here that's kind of a cool one as well. But I want you at least 3. What are 3 that you know I'm going to do those this holiday season? I'm going to engage with those calming techniques as a gift to myself and to those around me. So here's something that I love. We're going to do some guided imagery real quick here, but this says, give your mind a job to do, or it will find a job to do, right? And so we need to do it. So I want to show you these 3 pictures real quick. I just want you to see what you notice. Now, those didn't take very long. I want to get in each picture. I want to find myself living there. That's using guided imagery. Find a picture, find a phrase, a Christmas phrase from a song, put those together and say, I just want to live there for a second. Use that guided imagery to take a break from your setting, to get into a beautiful setting and give yourself a moment of break. The very last thing I wanted to tell you is to be resilient. Right? So to be resilient is often choosing your outlook. We talked about realistic resilience, but some of us go into the holidays thinking this is going to be so daunting. This is going to be just really stressful. And guess what? Due to confirmation bias, you find evidence for that, and it will be that way. But if you were to go into this holiday season saying, I'm going to have a healthy outlook, I'm going to choose de-stressors. I'm going to find ways to be grateful. I'm going to look for moments of calm rather than moments of stress. Guess what you're going to find? Those things. They will confirm what you're looking for. So being resilient through this holiday season means, what is your outlook? What is it going to be you're looking for? So as you have time, maybe jot down, what is one resilient perspective I want to have as I go through this holiday season? I really want that to be my focus as I go through this time. And as you do all these things, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. I hope that you go in hope, and I hope that you make incredible memories with your family, with your friends, and that you can do it with less stress, because it doesn't have to be lived that way. Bless you all as you have a wonderful Christmas.
Absolutely amazing, Carrie. Thank you so much for all of that wealth of information and just all the ideas on how to make it through the next, few weeks. Hopefully, coming out the other end a little bit saner. I think we can all safely say, this year's holidays, and especially after last year's holidays, we all could use this, regardless of our, whether we ourselves are affected with leukodystrophy or whatever we ourselves might be facing. But as families that face leukodystrophy, it certainly is a struggle every single year. But these past 2 holiday seasons have been particularly rough for the entire world. So I am very excited to say that we have recorded this session, and we will be posting this to our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you happen to have joined us a little bit late, thank you to everybody that joined us after the fact. Once we got started, if you happen to be joining us late and you do want to see the recording, I hope to have the video posted about noon tomorrow on our YouTube page. I will email it to all of the participants that registered, and we'll post it on our social media as well. And like I said, please mark your calendars for December 16th at 7 p.m. We will be hosting the siblings session with Alex and Liam Chaplot. And by the end of the year, we'll have the 2022 webinar series schedule released. And we'll give you more details on how to register and how to get that on your calendar as they come up. So as for tonight, thank you so much to everyone that joined us this evening. Thank you so much to our presenter, Carrie. And everyone have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Happy Hanukkah for the people that are Jewish and celebrating Hanukkah right now. Happy Kwanzaa, all the happy winter holidays, and a very Merry New Year. We hope that tonight's session was as beneficial for your family as it could be. So we very much look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas.